Well, good day. It's the 14th day of May, 2021. And if there is one city in the United States where there should not be any crime, it's Washington, D.C. Now, why is that? Well, you've got the D.C. Metro Police. You've got the Washington Metro Transit Police. You've got every federal agency's headquarters there. So FBI, DEA, Secret Service, you name it. They're all headquartered there. You have other law enforcement agencies, U.S. Secret Service Uniform Division, United States Capitol Police, Supreme Court Police. Well, there's another police department that you may not be aware of, but is very heavily present in Washington, D.C. That's the United States Park Police. And they are part of the Department of the Interior National Park Service. And they're the topic of today's video because they are now hiring. Now, what do they do? First of all, what's their jurisdiction? Park police are federal law enforcement officers. They are police officers. And they own everything that is green in Washington, D.C., basically. So that is the mall, stretching from Capitol Hill, which is run by the Capitol Police, but all the way down to the Washington Monument, the Jefferson Memorial, the Vietnam War Memorial, the World War II Memorial. All the memorials in Washington, D.C. are basically the property of the Park Police. And then there's other parks throughout the area, throughout Washington and Maryland, right along the area that they also have jurisdiction on. Now, they also have quite a few officers in New York City because of there are national parks there. There's the Statue of Liberty, there's Ellis Island, and then out in San Francisco, which is the Golden Gate Bridge. There's and I think Alcatraz Island. But those are the three areas where they have vacancies right now. And they are hiring. Their starting pay is about $65,000 a year. And what I'm going to do, I don't like recruiting videos, but I'm going to put this one on because, pictures tell 1,000 words. Now, what I'm probably going to do, if I am going to do it, I'm going to mute this sound because there's background music. And when there's background music, what happens is I get a hit from the copyright people. They don't like it. Now, you would think that something that's on the government's website, belongs to the government, but apparently not. So I'm going to mute it. But all these officers say, and I'm going to have you can see what they're saying with the closed caption. They love their jobs. But it shows the variety of assignments available to Park Police. So let's take a look at that.
Proudly serving since 1791, the United States Park Police is the oldest uniformed federal law enforcement agency. This elite police force serves as the urban park interface for society, giving a voice to demonstrators and presidents alike in both peace
demonstrations for freedom and human dignity
and chaos, while protecting our most cherished symbols of democracy and our nation's civic stage. The force continues to thrive as a division of the National Park Service and covers not only the metropolitan areas of Washington, D.C., but New York City and San Francisco.
The vision of the U.S. Park Police is to be the premier law enforcement organization within the federal government. We treat every community, every visitor that we engage in with dignity and respect. And when you think about the respect and trust that has to be intrinsic with law enforcement, that equals our legitimacy.
Okay, so there you have it. They have mounted patrol, motorcycles, vehicles, helicopters, you name it. So, basically in terms of what they do as a law enforcement agency, they would have basically all of the things that are available to a major law enforcement agency, such as a major metropolitan police department. So some of those things, very interesting. Boats, going out on the harbor. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of variety of things that you can do in the Park Police. Now, what is their main role? Well, of course, they enforce the law on anything that is green. So if somebody's doing something illegal, it's a federal crime because you're on federal property. So they would have jurisdiction. I would imagine for major things like a murder or something, they'd call the FBI, but because they don't do investigations. Their main role, protection and crowd control in the event of a riot. Now, during the last summer, 2020, as you are probably aware, unless you are under a rock, there were huge demonstrations in Washington, D.C., and a lot of park police, among other agencies, were called in to guard the White House. You know, the demonstrators were in Lafayette Square, which is right across from the White House. They set a church on fire, an Episcopal church that had been there since George Washington was in. Really a bad demonstration. I mean, and they guarded the White House. They got a lot of overtime. They also got a lot of guys who were injured. About 60 officers were injured in that protecting and guarding against the vandals. They kept the vandals out of the memorial, so the Lincoln Memorial wasn't defaced with the statues were decapitated. So all of those things, you know, they did a very good job, but a lot of the officers were injured. So, you know, the agency's going to have its critics. It's going to have, now generally, I think, you know, it's not as heavy duty as being like a Metro PD officer in Washington, D.C. I don't think it's as dangerous. But, you know, in the event of riots and things like that, civil disturbances, yeah, it can be dangerous. And you could get hurt. And last summer, a lot of them did get hurt. So let's take a look at the vacancy announcement on usajobs.gov. And then also on the requirements to get in, the different duty locations, the training requirements, and then what the employees have to say about the agency. And this is the listing on usajobs.gov. It opened up the 11th, will close the 25th. It's open, there's two lists. One is open to the public, which is anybody can apply who's qualified. And others, they have the special requirements. So they have two lists, but the requirements are the same. So let's take a look at those. Okay, and these are the requirements to join the Park Police. 21 to 37 years of age. It does have the special retirement provision. So unlike the VA Police, Department of Defense, you are, once you are hired by the Park Police, you are in the federal special retirement provision, which applies, as I've said in previous videos, to some and not to others. You have to be a United States citizen, have a high school diploma, and then either 2 years of college or 60 units, or 2 years of police or leadership experience. That can be police, military, any kind of leadership. And if you're a manager at the Walmart, I guess that would probably work, or even volunteer work. And then beyond that, you go through the hiring process. You apply on usajobs.gov. If your basic application is accepted, you pass a physical assessment battery, which is a sit and reach, a bench press based on your body weight, an agility run, and a 1.5 mile run. And then you progress on to a written exam, which tests your reading comprehension, grammar, and mathematical skills, report writing skills. They do a background investigation. And then the final thing, usually this is done first, but here it's done finally, a panel interview and a medical. I don't see any requirement that they do a psychological or polygraph. So those are two hiring steps that they apparently do not have. And then their training and assignments. If you are hired, you're going to go to Glencoe, Georgia, 18 weeks of police training. Your assignments will either be in DC, New York, or San Francisco. It does not say that you get your assignment of preference, but I would imagine most of the jobs are in DC. But if you want to go to New York or San Francisco, you probably can. The positives, well, the negatives, it costs a lot of money in all three of those locations. Your pay would include night differential, Sunday pay, holiday pay, overtime, and they do have a variety of units. They've got canine, mounted, horse patrol, motorcycles, aviation, bomb disposal, bike patrol, and even marine units, because they got to go on the Potomac and out to Ellis Island and all those things, and by the Golden Gate Bridge. So they got boats. So they've got basically everything. And I would say expect a lot of overtime for crowd control events, riots, etc. Okay, one of the weaknesses of this employee survey agency report is that it does not break down every agency, but this is the National Park Service, which is the smallest subcomponent that I could find, and that is the parent agency of the National Parks Police, and it doesn't rate very high. Okay, it rates 320 out of 420, so it's not particularly high. Their engagement score has been, let's take a look at their overall engagement score. And it has gone down from 64.1 in 2003, and it's continued to decline. And I imagine it declined a lot more in 2020 with all of the rioting and all of that nonsense that went on. So the engagement score, again, is the employee's recommendation as to whether it's a good place to work and whether they're satisfied with their work. Now, when we look at the scores by category, again, what you're going to see is a decline, a steady decline from 2003. Effective leadership, not particularly high, ranks 348 out of 413. What about their senior leadership? They don't have much confidence in that guy who was on the video, and they never have had confidence in their senior leadership. Their supervisors, it's a little bit better, but not much. They do rate okay with regards to employee skills mission match. So that isn't too bad. Work-life balance, it's not all that high. It's not good at all. And do they think they're going to be awarded fairly, based on their work? And the answer is not really. It's 319 out of 413. So it begs the question, do I recommend it as a place to work? And the answer is yes, absolutely. If you want to go into federal law enforcement, this is a very good place to start your career. It's probably going to be a little bit better than the Border Patrol right now. I just saw a very interesting article about how upset a lot of the agents in the Border Patrol are. A lot of early retirements are being taken because of the surge of undocumented immigrants and the huge sea change in policy. But again, the park police, they're going to stay the park police. They're not going to be a political football because they protect, again, the powerful. These are the symbols of power. All the monuments and everything. Nobody's going to let them be defaced. I don't care who's in power. And the day they let them be defaced, that'll be the end of the country. So they're going to protect those. So they're going to get taken care of no matter what happens. Is it the best place, the most exciting job? Generally speaking, on your everyday job, assignment, no, you're not going to be running to, but you may not want that. You may just want a good entry-level job that will help you get something else in the federal government, or you may want to stay with the park police. But again, the locations are very limited. D.C., New York City, San Francisco, and I think, the overwhelming majority you're looking at right in this area. Washington, D.C., with all the parks and monuments. New York, you probably got Ellis Island and, the Statue of Liberty, and I don't know what they got. I guess the bridge. I mean, they showed the bridge in San Francisco, which I think they have, responsibility for Alcatraz Island, but I don't know what they do with the bridge, whether they have any responsibility with that or not. I thought that was the California Highway Patrol, but I might be mistaken, but I think that CHP does the patrolling on the bridge. But be that as it may, it's something that you should put in for if you want to go into federal law enforcement. If you're looking for a job right now to get into, to get your foot in the door, this is an excellent opportunity. So hope this has been enjoyable and informative. And if you want to apply for the park police, this is your big chance. Or if you just want a federal police job that is covered under the law enforcement retirement, this is a good chance, a good opportunity. So thank you for watching. Thank you for the kind comments you guys put in there. It's very, very useful, very helpful, very encouraging for me. Okay? Have a good weekend.